Hello, everybody. My name is Rich Katanis. Let me start off by thanking you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you regarding my agency and our use of drones and hazardous materials response. As I mentioned, my name is Rich Katanis. I'm a firefighter hazmat technician with Southern Manatee Fire Rescue. I'm also the UAS coordinator for our department. I'm also part of the leadership council in a group called Flow Group, which is the Florida Public Safety UAS coordination group, which is ultimately kind of a think tank here in the state of Florida, made up of public safety professionals, all regarding unmanned systems and how they're implemented and used within our state, along with different training and tactics. Also, as a bridge to help with the legislative side and decision making on how drones are being used in this state. And we're made up of fire, law enforcement, and emergency management folks from across the state. And I'm also the U.S. team coordinator for Manatee County Search and Rescue, which is a nonprofit search and rescue team that supports the Tri-County area. So who is Southern Manatee? We're a smaller agency just on the west coast of Florida, just south of Tampa. If you're familiar with where Tampa is, about 50 miles south of that. We do all the hazardous materials response for Manatee County. And then we also have a tri-county agreement with agencies all around in Hillsborough County, Sarasota County, DeSoto County, and whatnot. We respond to their calls when needed on a mutual aid basis. Drone operations are an integral part of what we do here at Southern Manatee. Most of our hazmat calls will involve some sort of unmanned system application to it, whether it's flying or hand carrying or whatever the case may be. We try to integrate that quite often into our response. We are also a deployable asset at the state level through Florida Department of Emergency Management, and we're working towards developing an interesting pathway for us to respond to natural disasters or any kind of situation where unmanned systems may be needed in the state. We have a population of about 400,000 people in Manatee County, which is a pretty diverse area. We also have North America's second largest stockpile of anhydrous ammonia in the county from Tropicana, who produces orange juice here in Bradenton, Florida, and they have quite a bit of that used for the refrigeration purposes there at the facility. Manatee County also has an international deep water seaport, which we'll talk quite a bit about today during our use case portion of the presentation. We have lots of heavy and light industrial complexes, boat manufacturing, stuff like that. Railroads, we have an interstate runs right through our county, carries lots of hazardous materials up and down the interstate. And then we have a pretty robust commercial agricultural industry here in Manatee County, as well as an international airport with Sarasota International Airport. So what is it that we do that makes us so interesting? One of the things is we test a lot of the different types of systems that we're using in various ways. In order to be able to utilize these things in hazardous materials response, it's important that we run these tests. We also like to record these various tests and demonstrations and share it with other agencies, right? So there's lots of agencies out there that don't have the progressive attitude that Southern Manatee does. So we take that and we record these and we share with everybody so they can start using it to help better their department and better their programs they're trying to develop. In 2018, we had began a partnership with DJI, which those of you don't know DJI, they're the world's largest drone manufacturer, and more of like an R&D partnership with them to conduct tests of these systems in different various atmospheres, with whether it's explosive testing, flammability testing, or decon testing, as I'll share a little bit of that with you as we move forward. So we do this because we like to share these results. We believe that drones are extremely innovative. There's a lot of cost savings and life safety applications with drone technology that we feel is very important to kind of better the industry. It keeps our people safer, keeps the public safer as well. So we want to share that information with other folks. We try to help other agencies with building their program, whether it's from scratch or if they want more advanced training and options. We can offer that for them and help them, along their path. And then we've, been doing it for about 7 years now, and we've developed quite a bit of different tactics and procedures to help streamline, hazard materials response, and make things safer, like I said before, and more efficient in what we do and how we do it. And because at the end of the day, it's all about reducing risk to us and to our constituents. A couple of the notable things about Southern Manatee that we've been able to accomplish, like I mentioned before, we're the first hazmat team to partner with DJI. DJI was really important to us moving forward to help with the recognition and the development of our program and tactics and stuff that went along with that. So we're very appreciative of that connection that we had with them. We're also, considered subject matter experts with International Emergency Drone Organization, or IEDO, which is very popular. You may be familiar with them, as they are pretty popular over on the European side, more so than they are here in the U.S., but still quite a good foothold here as well. We've also were significant in helping the country of Colombia, South America, implement drones into their response matrix throughout the country, which was a pretty interesting step for us to be able to assist those guys in doing this. So that was pretty fun to work with those guys. And again, with drone responders, we have such SMEs with drone responders as well. We've partnered with other companies like Squishy Robotics and dozens of other agencies out there we've helped support in moving forward and building these programs inside of their agencies. And this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the larger departments and some of the bigger federal agencies that we've been able to impact with our program and the type of work that we're doing in hazardous materials response with drones. So let's jump right into it. So this is basically what a first out aircraft for us would look like. This is a Matrice M210 or DJI Matrice 210. It carries thermal imaging camera and a long range zoom camera. But we started to develop ways to carry other sensors that we would typically carry on our person as a hazmat or hazmat technician, such as radiation detection, flammable gas detection, chemical detection. So we're able to attach these different sensors right onto the aircraft, and using on the onboard camera systems, we're able to push that information back to the pilot and back to incident commanders to make good, sound decisions. So this is something we started developing years ago. Lots of manufacturers are out there now developing more integration with detection equipment onto these aircraft. So it's pretty cool to see what we've started with and where the technology is going today. So drone recon is a pretty important part in what we do. The drone is able to give us a lot of information. We can gather quite a bit of information the first 10 minutes of a drone going in the air than we typically could with one or two rotations of technicians at the same, going in, which could be up to 90 minutes before that even took place. It's important to understand these are information gathering tools. By being able to fly quickly and rapidly into a scene, we can quickly gather information that not only the pilot gets to see, but also our technicians and our incident commanders can all be in the same operational picture. As you can see, this is our back of our hazmat truck. We've got a pilot flying. There's a monitor that comes out of the back of the truck. And so everybody can look at that at the same time and get the same idea of what's going on. So it's important for us to be able to get everybody on the same page operationally, especially initially in the beginning of the scene. So in order for us to be able to do these, to operate these systems in flammable atmospheres, like I said, it was important for us to test these systems against, against flammable gases and stuff like that might potentially become a hazard for us. Now, drones are not intrinsically safe by nature. However, we needed to make sure that if we were flying a drone that ended up somehow inside of a flammable atmosphere, that it was not going to become the source of the ignition. So we started to conduct testing. And this is where we partnered up with DJI to start doing this. Ultimately, what we had to do is we had to build this box to be able to put the drone in, fill the box with flammable gas for everything from propane to hydrogen gas, and then we would fly the aircraft inside the box. And this would tell us trying to see if it would set the atmosphere off ultimately. So if it didn't set the atmosphere off, we also wanted to purposely set the atmosphere, ignite the atmosphere. That way it would blow up we have cameras rolling Mythbusters style, if you're familiar with Mythbusters. And that way people could see that there was an actual gas inside of the container when we put it in there. So you're seeing this video here. It's kind of showing that how we did blow this. This is a Matrice 210. Once we tested the aircraft and it passed, then we wanted to ignite the gas to prove that it was flammable inside there. And as you can see, it goes up in pretty dramatic fashion. And a lot of this information that I'm sharing here, these videos and whatnot, at the end of the end of the presentation, I'll share with you our YouTube channel, which houses all of our drone information and our training stuff. Everything that you're seeing here, you'll be able to find on our YouTube channel, which is SMFR 911. But I'll share all that with you at the end too. So as you can see, this was important for us to be able to test these and to make sure that they're going to be able to withstand the rigors of hazardous materials response. As the technology develops and we start pushing these systems to do even more dangerous things, right? Drones are used for the dull, the dirty, the dangerous type applications. And here you can see this is the Brink Lemur, which is more designed for interior operations, such as confined space. It's used heavily in the law enforcement community with SWAT tactics and all these different interior operators. Okay. So we wanted to be able to take these same types of sensors, strap them to the back of an aircraft like the Lemur, and fly it into some confined spaces and to monitor air in these collapsed structures or tubes or anything that could have an area that's not meant for human occupancy. So what happens if these systems go into these places and they become now contaminated? Our typical hazardous materials, set up in response is we have to have a decon area set up for our technicians when they go in to do work before they can even go in, right? We have to have a place where they'll be able to come out and get decontaminated before they exit the warm zone. However, drones are pretty resilient in the fact that they don't have to necessarily have a decon set up in order to continue to work. Part of our tactics is to fly the aircraft into the hot zone and to continue to do work inside there. And when the aircraft has to come out to switch batteries, we can land it in the warm zone if we're concerned it might be contaminated, switch batteries out, keep pushing it in back and forth until we're ready to take it out of service. At that point, we came up with tactics and ways to decon this system. So in order before you take it out and put it in the cold zone, it needs to be able to be decontaminated. So we would identify if there's any hazards on the aircraft itself. We would do testing, and then we would decon it using electrostatic sprayer in a chemical mixture called Dahlgren Decon. It sprays it on, kills 99.9% of everything. It's basically a parasitic acid. And then we can rinse that off and clean it off, and then dry the aircraft out, and then put it back in service again. It's good to go. This is another one of those areas where we have a video that I could show you, but it's on our YouTube channel, so we'll be able to. I'll share that with you. You'll be able to see that on our YouTube channel. So drones excel at detecting radiation. The same type of setup we spoke about earlier, where you use the drone to look at a meter that we're carrying. Radiation doesn't get affected by rotor wash, whereas a gas or a chemical plume could potentially be affected by rotor wash, whereas radiation, it's not going to affect it. So using the drone to fly up to a package or up to a rail car or something to try to detect the presence of radiation is extremely effective using an unmanned system, unmanned aerial system. And this is just basically what it looks like when we do that, right? So our camera shows our radiation detection, which is the picture on the right there, or our flammable gas detection, which is the top left photo there. So we can easily see if there's any flammable gas in the atmosphere or any radiation. So, and this is all from the pilot's perspective. So everybody gets that same operational picture, which is really nice. Command and control is important when it comes to understanding what's going on downrange. So having a pilot flying an aircraft and getting that bird's eye perspective for your incident commanders to be able to have real-time information is invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that. But by having a large monitor and the ability to be able to not only consult with the first responders, but with the facility managers and the folks who are making the decisions there, have them there at the same time to come up with the game plan. And the drone can deliver that imagery that is important that gets everybody on that same operational picture. So our motto here is, we've kind of lived by this when we developed our program, was to not let the drone be a passive observer, to make it an active participant in the mitigation of your incident. And historically, drones were typically used to park them in the sky and just kind of keep bird's eye view, watch what's going on. We wanted to develop ways to better utilize the aircraft to do some of the work and take some of the pressure off of our technicians, right? So that's where the air monitoring, detection, payload delivery, things like that the drone can do now that we don't have to necessarily send a person in to do that same kind of work. So I'm going to kind of go over just a few different use cases that Southern Manatee's experience here. Now, this presentation, I usually have about 4 hours worth of material, but we're going to try to run through this stuff to keep within the time restraints here. So one of the interesting things is drones don't have to be flying to be effective, right? They have great cameras on them. They have floodlights, like the DJI Mavic Enterprise Dual has a floodlight capability on the top of it. It has thermal imaging. And it has a great video capability of streaming back to a command post. So in this situation, as you'll be able to see, our techs basically just hand carry the aircraft in. Rotors aren't spinning; it's just carried in, and we're live streaming that back to our command post, and they can see what's going on inside with our technicians all at the same time. So we're all seeing the same thing they're seeing simultaneously, and that allows us to do a couple things. One, we can kind of keep a different view of what's going on. They're doing work in there. They may not be able to see everything. They may not see a chemical reaction taking place in one of those containers, whereas we might pick that up before they do. So it's a good safety tool as well. It keeps everybody sharp, and it cuts down on the amount of communication coming back and forth, right? We can see what they're seeing. Makes it a lot easier. This is, as I mentioned before, we talked about our port or seaport here. Well, this is one of the locations that is, we've gotten quite a bit of work out of responding here. This was a 3,000 gallon nitric acid containment breach. Long story short, one of the workers put too much nitric acid offloading from a rail car into one of their storage containers, too much into a container that already had liquid in it. The next day they came out and the nitric acid had not only leaked out of the container, but it leaked into the containment wall, which also had breaches in it. So this situation, the first time we flew the aircraft in there to get a quick recon of the area, what was going on, see if we could figure it out. And then at the next sortie, we ended up sending in the hand carry method with the technicians this time, because they had determined what they needed to do, shut off a valve or two here, to be able to disable or stop the flow of the acid. And this was more like a recon mission at the same time. So as you can see, we have thermal imaging. We also have visible light camera, which gives us a great understanding of what's going on. And as we round the corner here, we can see the slick on the ground there, which is where the acid's coming up from underneath the forklift. And then we can see right there that heat source, and that's basically the breach from the containment wall. And that is it reacting with that wooden pallet. The acid is reacting, causing heat with that wooden pallet. And then as we come around to the back of the container, you can see the water or the acid bubbling through the wall there. Now, I don't know how this probably looks a little choppy on your end, but again, all these videos will be on my YouTube channel, our YouTube channel. So I encourage you to go back and see these in real time without being choppy and with all the audio too. So, but it's a good, interesting use case, how we utilize a drone for that procedure. Again, this is near the port area. The diesel gasoline trucks come out of the port pretty quickly, full of fuel, sometimes turning to get on the interstate. They overturn because they go too quickly. Again, it's just nature of the beast. Well, this one was a gasoline tanker that had took the turn too quickly, and it turned over and started spilling its product all over the ground. So you can see here in the video, we launched a drone, to get a better bird's eye view of what's going on. And we can see there's a pretty substantial size gash in the side of the container, which is difficult to reach. So, that allowed us to formulate a game plan. This is before we pushed anybody down there. We were just spraying the foam to suppress vapors, but at the same time, the drone is gathering most of the information we need before we could even have to send the first crew in there, which is extremely important. And then once we come up with a plan, how we're going to fix the problem, um, it's not uncommon for us to take a gas detector, mount it to the drone, and fly it downrange, downwind, and land it. Now we're just monitoring the air for any flammable gases. So if the wind shifts, the gas starts coming this direction, we know we can adjust our containment area, for people downwind or vehicles or homes, whatnot. So this is just another great use case of utilizing the drone to carry flammable gas equipment or flammable gas detection equipment. Again, this was our port area. Port keeps us very busy here in Manatee County. This was an interesting use case where an old company had been dumping fertilizer, runoff and whatnot in the ground. Basically, they were making ammonium nitrate, and for years they had been dumping in the ground. Well, when the new contractor moved in, it started moving some of the soil around, ignited a fire on the ground. So we got on scene to find this. We sent the drone in there to identify what was going on. It wasn't something we'd ever seen before. It looked like a volcano bubbling up underground. So we knew that wasn't natural and normal in Florida. So to find out what that was, we did some detection work and we're able to isolate it down to ammonium nitrate. Now, ammonium nitrate is pretty scary stuff. It highly explosive. It's used in making explosives. Obviously, it's fertilizer as well, but extremely dangerous. So we were hesitant about getting too carried away with how we went to mitigate this. And just as a reminder of what ammonium nitrate is, this is Beirut, Lebanon in 2020. Stockpiles of ammonium nitrate did this to Lebanon. So, I'm sorry, to Beirut. So you can understand our hesitation of getting in too close to that scene. So the game plan was we decided to back up one of our fire trucks with a ladder on it and just basically flow water over the area for hours and hours and hours until we knew that the fire was put out underground. It was just much safer to do it that way rather than put people in harm's way down there. So, and the drone gave us that information, right? So we were able to use that piece of equipment to make some really good decisions and to keep our guys safe, by going this route. This is an interesting case. It's actually in Utah. A good friend of ours up in Utah, State Fire Marshal, shared this information with us. This was a train derailment carrying diesel fuel and liquid propane. And both of those together are pretty much harmless in their containers when they're on the tracks and they're moving. But when they become derailed and they're damaged and they're leaking, it's definitely it's an extremely dangerous situation. So the drone was used for its difficult to reach area because it was a very rural area way out in the middle of nowhere. So they used the drone to look to see what was going on, identify what had been damaged, but it also was able to do that and keep people out of harm's way. So they quickly realized the only way to clean this up properly would be to do it the way the railroads like to do it, and that means to detonate it. So their answer was to put some charges on the containers, fall back, and ignite the diesel and the propane, so it didn't become it's not a hazard anymore once it exploded. So this is a video of that from a few miles away once they ignited, and it was pretty spectacular. So you can see that's quite a bit of flame for the amount of propane and diesel that had gone up. I would say that's about 2 or 3 miles away that they shot this video. So dangerous stuff, but again, drones are used. They're an integral part of that to make some really, really sound decisions, and without having to put where traditionally we drove somebody in there and people had to walk in there, and it was extremely dangerous situation. Again, going back to the air monitoring confined space stuff, this is just some new testing and research that we're working on. Strapping some smaller 4-gas detectors, such as the Blackline handheld gas sensor, to the back of a lemur, which is made for interior operations and confined space operations. The difference is Blackline is the interesting thing about them is they have LTE built into their detectors. So I don't need a camera to look at the sensor anymore. I can just use my LTE connection to the sensor to feed that information back, which you can see there on the screen on the right. It's pushing back the detection sensor meter readings back to me to my laptop in real time. And this is just a video of me flying around here in the station, but you can see it's extremely capable of carrying the sensor. This aircraft is designed to be able to fly under vehicles, in rail or in subways, under collapsed structures, in tunnels. Extremely capable aircraft to do all those same kind of things. This is an interesting call too. One of the early ones we did early on. This was a fuel spill in the Manatee River. It was a large vessel that was dumping fuel all night long while it was moored at the docks there. Diesel was leaking in the bilge. The bilge was pumping around the river. So we got on scene and we realized this is a pretty, it's a big mess. Lots of diesel fuel in the water. So we decided to quickly use the drone to create a map. And so I flew the drone and it mapped the area, and I can start to see pretty easily inside that map, an ortho-rectified map, by the way. I can see the outline of the diesel fuel on the water. And what the important part about this is these maps allow us to get real-time measurements and understanding of what's the measurements on the ground, so I can use the map to do all that. And simply by getting on the software, I can trace out the area where I see the diesel spill, and I can get a understanding of what that looks like with measurement. So I can change the filters around here. It kind of stands out a little bit better there. You can see the darker area where the blue in the water was. So when I do trace that out, it tells me there's 2.014 acres of diesel on the surface of the water. And why that's important is, we want to take that number, we want to make that number go down. So once we come up with a mitigation plan, we start to work at that to try to start cleaning that up or preventing it from spilling or leaking anymore. And then we run the same scenario over again in a few hours, 4 hours later, let's say. We fly the drone, run another map, and we measure it again. If the number's going down, that means our plan's working, right? We can see the progress that we're making. Whereas traditionally, it was very difficult to tell, other than what you've already cleaned up, to determine how much you've got left or you've cleaned up already. So this actually works it's a great opportunity to show the progress of what we're doing, or show what we're doing is even working. So that was a pretty interesting use case as well. So that's it for the use cases. And as I promised before, this is I wanted to share with you our YouTube channel. So there's our website, and then our YouTube channel is SMFR 911, or you can just do a QR code screen grab of that, and it'll take you right to our YouTube channel. And then lastly, this is my contact information. So if you have any more questions or about what you saw here, like I said, there's a ton of information I'd love to share with you guys. Unfortunately, just because of time restraints, we have to limit it to just a few slides, but I'd be happy to talk with you, happy to share more information with you. That's my email and my cell phone. By all means, feel free to shoot me a call or shoot me an email if you have any other questions. And once again, I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you guys, the opportunity to be part of the conference here, and I look forward to sharing with you guys again in the future. So be safe, and we'll see you guys soon.